Your work works on you more than you work on it. And what I realized for about 3 to 5 years there is like all that hard work, it was building who I was.
Hey, welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan. He's Thaddeus, I'm Evan. We are live at the Service World Expo down in Orlando. We're having a great time here so far. Got in last night and we happened to run, well, I actually messaged Mike the other day and was like, hey man, when we're down here, you want to get together, come on the show.
But of course, today's episode would not be possible without our lovely sponsors. And in no particular order, we have On Purpose Media, Elite Call, Chirp, and Free to Go. Have you ever thought about outbounding your databases to fill your dispatch boards with lucrative service and sales appointments and boosting memberships too? Well, enter in Elite Call, a US-based call center that does just that. For over 20 years, their dedicated teams don't just make calls, they directly integrate appointments into your CRM and fill your dispatch board. So don't let your competition get ahead. Let Elite Call connect with your customers first. Visit elitecall.net to learn more. Well, if you ever wanted to transform your home service business with Chirp, you can, because they are the ultimate automation toolbox. It helps you capture more leads, connect instantly, and that speed to lead things big, and skyrocket your sales. It integrates directly into platforms like Service Titan, House Call Pro. It offers unlimited or automated text messages, rather. I'm sure unlimited, but you got to pay for it. So offering automated texts, emails, and even ringless voicemails. You boost your Google reviews too, and also increase customer loyalty with their proven rehash programs. Getting jobs on the board in the shoulder season, important. Schedule your demo with them today and get an exclusive 25% off your first 3 months. Visit them at chirp.com/HSSR.
Enhance your online presence with On Purpose Media, your go-to home service marketing experts for everything web design, SEO, and PPC. They build stunning user-friendly websites built to convert visitors into phone calls. They'll enhance your visibility on Google with effective pay-per-click ads, minimizing wasted ad spend. Let's turn your online presence into a lead-generating powerhouse. Visit onpurposemedia.ca to start your digital transformation today. Wouldn't it be nice to know what's happening on every single call that comes into your business? Or to identify that one objection that CSRs are constantly struggling with? Enter Lace AI, your call center revenue intelligence platform. With Lace analyzes 100% of the calls that come into your business. And using AI is able to identify the revenue blockers that are happening in your call center and provide you with the tools to overcome them. This is going to give your managers so much more time back to be able to fully optimize and work with your team and your individual CSRs to fully optimize your call center and make sure you are booking as many calls as possible. So if this sounds like something that's interesting to you, go to lace.ai/demo to book your demo today. Mike Venidis is our guest. He is the CXO, because experience is spelled with an X now. At Ryno Digital. You guys just love to spell things incorrectly, hey?
Yeah, man. You know? Like if there's anything you do with branding, you got to make it your own. You know? Like, X is such a cool letter.
Right?
I don't know why, man.
It instantly makes you better.
Yeah, of all the letters, I'm like, dude, the X, man. It's just so cool. I
think it was DMX. He's the one that.
Or it might have been X-Men too. You know, I was a Wolverine guy when I was a kid. Like,
there you go.
You just put out some rappers from the 90s.
I know.
Yeah, dating ourselves.
Really
They're good rappers. They're good rappers.
I mean, that's also
one
the
rapper's
Ryno
good.
thing too, though, right?
Right.
Like, the
Ryno
90s
X,
rappers
yeah.
out there.
I told you. When rap was its finest, and you have to pass that tradition down.
Right.
It's on us, man, guys. We have a responsibility to pass it along
to the generation that doesn't know. So
I love it. But you've been with Ryno for 12 years now.
12 years, yeah.
You've evolved tremendously in the company, but we first met last year at this exact same event when it was in Phoenix. And we happened to get together at a little pub. Yeah. Josh and Laura Kelly had us out for a little mixer, so to speak, with just a few select people. It was great, but that was the first time that we really got to meet you. Yeah. And I know Thaddeus and I have both had conversations with Chris in the past, but never had a chance to meet you. And your story and what you shared there and getting to know you a little bit and your background and how you got involved with everything. And just your mission and purpose with life and everything. And Mary was there as well, and Eric McGrath, and hearing your experience going through their training a little bit too. I know this is kind of a rambling sort of intro, but I was just absolutely blown away with who you are, your mission, your vision, and then following you on social for the last year.
Thank you, man.
And hearing you talk about it, I was really excited to sit down and have a conversation with you, man.
Well, I'm really excited to be here, you know. It means a lot to me to hear you say all that. Like, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Like, anytime somebody's vulnerable and shares how they're feeling about you, like, getting chills just kind of saying it. So I feel blessed to be here. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Well, yeah, you and I had a very honest conversation last year at that bar, and it was like we single-handedly changed each other's opinions on each other just by that conversation.
Yeah,
by
I
being raw,
vividly
real,
remember it.
Yeah,
I
me
loved
too.
it.
Me
I
too.
loved it.
Yeah.
Like, I was instantly like, I want to help these guys.
Yeah, yeah. So no, it was a good conversation. But I actually want to go right to the very beginning. I mean, that story of like you're blessed to be here. Really, literally blessed to be here. For those that might not know, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. I mean, the short version is that I got shot twice by a 13-year-old child, which...
Not your child.
No, not my child. No kids here. You know, I think the hardest part about it is I was left there for quite some time throughout the night and kind of just sit there waiting, like, what's going to happen? I mean, I called for help, and then I passed out. You know, so it was, a lot of that was spent completely unconscious. I woke up to the ambulance, like cutting off my clothes and stuff, and then I passed out again, and then I woke up like on the way into surgery. I remember asking like, hey, am I gonna be okay? And they're like, hey, we're actually gonna figure that out. I'm like, could you be more honest? Then I passed out again, and next thing you know, I wake up with like tubes in my throat, man. But I got shot in the stomach once, I got shot in the leg. And it's so funny because you look at me and you think, oh yeah, this guy's for sure is just hanging out with the wrong crowd. You know, bad behavior. No, we were just at an art walk, man. You know, we were just at an art walk enjoying the Friday night in downtown Phoenix, and I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, man. It was an attempted robbery. It just went south.
Right. No, I mean, when you get that second look at life, like, what has that meant to you now?
Dude, that's such a powerful question because it almost feels like that I have to earn the right to be here. It's a blessing and a curse, you know. Like, my wife will tell you, man, like my biggest weakness, guys, is being in the moment. And it's because I'm always looking at what's next, because you're so grateful that there is a next. So like, there is some trauma there and some damage that gets done. But at the same time, like, your entire life becomes about everyone else.
Right.
You know, like, I'm like, I shouldn't even be here. This is bonus time, this overtime, you know? And like, this every minute has to be, I carry this constant guilt of like, I need to be spending this time in some way lifting somebody else up or genuinely helping them get what they want in life. And then there's kind of this side piece over where I'm like, hey, I really want to make sure that people appreciate life the way that I do. Like, I cheated. That's the way I feel like it. Like, I'm gonna use air quotes, I got lucky.
Right.
But now I have this gift. And I'm like, man, I want to share this. Like, I want everybody to see the world through the eyes that I see it in, and I don't want them to have to get shot to have that. So I just feel like it's my purpose to go and share that message. You know, that's just kind of what I think about quite often. You know, and then I found a way to like, hey, how do I pour into myself so that I can do more? So it's kind of a balance now, and then that opens up a whole new conversation.
Yeah.
Because when you do everything you do every day, knowing that it's because like you're trying to fill that cup so that you have more to pour into somebody else's, then all of that hard work just 10x's because you know it's not really for you, it's for someone else. Right. When you think of things like friendship, love, all that, God, man, it just gets me so high on life.
So when did you start doubling down on the education that you have in terms of like self-study, trying to grow yourself, trying to better yourself so that you can pour into others? When did that start?
You know, I would say probably it's like a halfway point. I don't think there was like this pivotal moment, but when you ask me that question, my mind goes back, okay, well, 12 years ago, around the same time that I joined Ryno, like, that's when the shooting happened. That's how I found Ryno. Right. You know, and I think I spent the first 3 to 5 years relearning who I am. And there was a sense of gratitude. You know, the founders, Chris and Anna, were there for me at a very vulnerable time in my life. So that willingness to try and repay that debt, you know, and like, you want to constantly go above and beyond for these people because they bet on me when nobody else was willing to, you know? And so you go through these years of hard work, and I kind of had a shortcut. The fact that I was doing it for someone else made it powerful, and I'm just going and I'm going and I'm going, you know? But somewhere through that hard work, I quote this all the time. Alex Hormozi said it, I love it. He says, your work works on you more than you work on it. And what I realized for about 3 to 5 years there is like all that hard work, it was building who I was. You know, and after I spent a lot of years being mentored by Anna, especially, then you start developing this ability to impact other people. And the company is growing, like I'm growing with it. So when you have all these people that are relying upon you and you continue to kind of earn the right to lead, and you start to see like the value and the satisfaction of helping other people like within the org get what they want, that's when it like turned. Right. So I would say maybe the last 5 to 6 years I had this like epiphany somewhere in there that like, oh, you know, I've done enough work here to where I actually might be worth listening to right now. Like I might actually know what I'm talking about. Right. And now I'm going to start helping people like, you know, learn where I fell short.
No, I love that. It's, you know, if you want to have more, you have to become more. If you want to give more, you have to become more, right? Yeah. And yeah, just being able to pour into other people's, like it's so uplifting. It feels great. It's so fulfilling. It really is. And it's energizing to be able to come back and have people feel like you've made a difference, feel like you've made an impact. I know you get that a lot now from the team too. And Deidre, our director of operations, she gets that a lot now too. And it's, yeah, there's nothing like it. When did the transition happen into the chief experience officer? When was that on the timeline?
Maybe two to 3 years ago, somewhere in there. I mean, I had a president role of digital marketing, but we started to get confused. Like people would reach out to me thinking I owned the company, right. and we needed to make that more clear. You know, Chris's title as CEO, so we tried to change it. CMO now, yeah. And that's his jam, dude. He's so good at that. So yeah, I mean, we had to kind of clear things up, I think, to make it more obvious to everybody else, especially when you start to speak more and you start going out and doing forward facing. And a lot of those opportunities started here, man, at Service World Expo. Because you actually have to, you know, they vet the speakers well here. There's no pitching, like you truly have to educate and teach. And I got lucky, you know, because many years actually doing the SEO, the PPC, you know, and then I went and did client management, worked with the contractors directly. So to have a little bit of experience in every role set me up perfectly to be able to do an event like this.
Well, yeah, because you know what the team does, and like, and we asked him before, you know, is it internal or external? Like, well, kind of both, right? It's a mix of everything. But when you do the work on all those different parts and you move up, now you actually have the more robust experience. I think of Adam Barty is a good example. We had him on in Atlanta, and he had to apply for the warehouse position, and he swept floors in their warehouse, and then a new job opening, he had to apply, and he had to apply, and he had to apply, and now he runs the company, but he has an appreciation for everything that comes from it. In terms of going back and that appreciation that you've learned, I guess over that journey from, I mean, starting at listening to calls to now being a part of the face of the company, what was the biggest learning experience for you that if somebody else is kind of in that step or in that journey that they also want to unpack that, what would you tell them?
Oh my gosh, so many things. I think the two things that come to mind first is the client experience side was the biggest game changer for me. Because what I'd realized is when you're talking to contractors, they don't speak the same language. They don't necessarily measure things the same way digital marketers do. And I think that there's like a pretty drastic gap in between that. So having to learn how to talk to individuals, you know, in that space, knowing what I know, knowing what they know, that was a huge growing moment for me. Plus there's something about being forward facing, right? Because when you're responsible for customers, like, and you don't know these people, you feel this weight of fear. So when I had to inherit a book of business and meet all these people, like I was very uncomfortable. I was very nervous. I'm like, dude, these are all business owners. Like, they got to be like so smart and so incredible, and they are, right? Like they're risky, and they're a lot of things that I dreamt of being, you know, at the time. And so that weight and that fear, that discomfort, it really resulted in my growth. So that's like one thing that comes to mind as far as like as you go through the different roles. Forward facing and back of the house, two drastically different games is really what I'm trying to say. Yeah. And I think the second piece was when I was invited to be on the executive team, you know, with Chris and Anna. At the time we had Paul Redman, now at Contractor Commerce, love that guy. Today we now have Jeff Boab. So there's really only ever been 4 or 5 of us, like in the history of Ryno, that have ever made it to that team. But what I had realized is like when you're mentored and you're developed by the two people you sit at the table with, you're just a spitting image of them to a degree. You know, and part of being in a C-suite role or at an executive table is like, you have to have uncomfortable conversations. You have to fight for what you believe in, and you have to be okay with losing too. You know, like my CEO, my COO, like they are the 1A in certain situations. So regardless of whether I agree, like they make the final shot, you know, if we don't have a healthy vote. So things like that, I learned like, hey, if I'm going to continue to sit at this table, I need to go out. I need to bring new things to this table. I need to bring new qualities. Like I need to figure out your strengths, your weaknesses, and try and offset those things. And that was like very eye-opening for me, man. Which is why, you know, we talked about Mary earlier. I'm a huge fan of Driven Leadership and the BOLD program because that's what they do. You know, they help you understand these concepts. And I think that that's very important. Like if you're building a leadership team, and if there's anything I've seen, like building leaders and having a key leadership team is really a game within itself that is so drastic to the amount of success that you see, you know, as a business owner.
Well, and that's where a lot of contractors tend to get stuck. Yeah. Is when you move in that transition from just trying to grow your team and getting technicians to now having to lead leaders. Yeah. It's not an easy transition.
For sure. You guys ever read E-Myth?
Yep.
The one that Goodrich wrote with Gerber for the HVAC contractor.
Yeah.
You know, like great book.
Yeah.
No, you know, no question there. But like, ironically, the biggest takeaway that I got was, and I mean it in the most respectful way. I tell people this all the time. Like I don't ever want it to come across that I'm saying it's easy to start your own company. No, it's scary. No. But it's deceivingly easy. I felt like when I was reading the contracting, you know, the guide to success is what I'm going to call it. Like, what I had realized is, you know, to get licensed and to go through the process, it's not like overwhelming to think, well, hey, I can just do some side jobs and then I go and I start my own company. And when I thought about the psychology like behind that whole aspect, what I felt like I was observing is, well, this is why you've got so many contractors that are stuck in the business and not on it. Because when you take that leap and you start your own company, I can't help but think like, oh, that means I'm free. I get to make my own decisions, do what I want. But what you don't realize is I actually just inherited everybody else's BS, like as I start to grow the team. Yeah. And that was something that always stuck with me from that book, you know? It's a great book.
Well, great book. And I haven't read the one with Ken Goodrich. I've read the original one. They talked about it. But you are right. Like you get stuck when you start the business. A lot of times people are they're doing everything. Like you said, you've worked your way through. I mean, shit, when we started the business, we were doing everything. Other than building the websites, that's one thing I couldn't do. I tried, and I was like, it looks like something from 1995. But I mean, hey, some people still have websites from 1995. But you get doing everything, and now once you get good at it, you actually have to release it to somebody else. It's so hard because you're like, well, shit, I can just do it better, quicker, faster than you.
Yeah.
Right.
And nobody cares as much as you do.
Nobody cares, right? You know? Nobody cares because it's your business. And so the one thing that I've always took with me, and perhaps maybe you've done this too as well, and if you've come up, is that if somebody can do it to 80% of my level, fucking A.
Let it go. That's a win.
That's a win.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Pareto principle, right?
Right.
Like it's a concept of what should I delegate versus what I should not. And I think that that's a huge lesson, like that a lot of entrepreneurs have to really like focus on embracing.
Well, another one too, and it's kind of like it's maths out to the Pareto principle when you look at the 10-80-10, which is Dan Martell. So you start the first 10%, somebody else does the other 80%, and then you finish the last 10%. Allows you to be able to compress that time backwards, but just let them explore and let them fail forward because they're gonna make mistakes. You just have to fail. And that's okay.
You gotta let them grow.
Right? Yeah. One of the things I'm going to circle back to, you mentioned sitting at the leadership circle and having tough conversations. Not something that comes naturally or easy to people, but it's something that is necessary in business. If you're going into a conversation with an owner or leader where you are the one that has to initiate the tough conversation, what sort of prep are you doing and how are you being able to brace yourself and them for the tough conversation to happen?
I love this question so much. Guys, like I've been doing a lot of podcasts lately and this might be like one of my top 3 questions of all time. So I just want to give you that credit.
But the real other question is how many people ask it?
No one. That's part of what I love.
Nailed it.
And there's so much good value to this answer because one, like Ryno gets a lot of attention for our culture. You know, and I think the biggest thing that I ever took away from this is that if you can create, like we like to throw all these flash words, right? Like these core values around. Now, like when we built our core values, we were very intentional. Like, you know, Thad, I think we talked about this, right? Like we picked 7 values that were applicable to you as a person. not just as an employee. Something you could be proud of when you left the office, right? And before you rolled in, you know, as a father, as a brother, as a mother, as a daughter, like. And when we went through that process, one of the biggest things we realized is like the word transparency is such a buzzword. We all want to use this word, but like, what does it truly mean? And I think one of the biggest things like that the Ryno culture ever did right is we genuinely cared about each other. And I'll give you an example, like any of my direct reports, like I would track their 3 top personal goals, and my job was to get them to understand how this business is going to help them obtain what they're really passionate about in life. Like, how are you going to get that car you want? I had one gal, you know, the family member slightly losing hearing. So like every meeting we'd show up, I came with a new sign language. I was learning it with her. One new word. That way, like, she's slowly accomplishing what she truly wanted to do, and that's, you know, her kids. Like, that's her heart. So I loved that. But the purpose of all this, to get to the actual question, right, is when you create a culture and people truly be like they feel genuinely cared about, it becomes a lot easier to have a difficult conversation and not feel like I'm attacking your character. We're attacking an objective. So the fact that they feel so cared about, it becomes a lot easier to just lean into those difficult conversations that you need to have. And I think the second piece, right, is I try to make sure when I'm doing that prep, it's factual. It's not truthful, factual. Lou Habaika taught me this. There's a difference between truth, right, and fact. Truth is your perception of truth. It's what you believe is to be true. I might not agree with it. So I think it's important, like when you're having conversations, to come with factual evidence and also be mindful of the timing. If you did something 2 weeks ago and I'm pulling you in to have a difficult conversation now, like you're not really going to learn from this. I missed my chance. Plus, is this something you're going to do over and over and over 10 times, or is this a one-time thing? Because I want to pick my battles. I'm actually more interested in catching how many things you do right than how many things you do wrong. That's just how I operate, you know, and I feel like it's done well for us.
Well, and that's, as a parent, we do that, where it's so easy to find all the negative things, because that's also what we do to ourselves. Right. We condition ourselves to look for the negative.
So true.
Right, and I mean, part of that is even just human psychology in terms of, you know, the brain and how it's developed, and it was built to survive running away from saber-toothed tigers, right? And so it's constantly looking for the negative. It's looking for fear. Which is why newspapers sell so well. It's why the news is the way that it is. Because it's trying to create headlines and grab people's attention.
It drives me nuts.
Right.
I'm like, can we celebrate some fun things?
The entire 30-minute news sequence, or I guess 22 minutes when you factor in commercials, and 1 minute is something positive about how they
ended
the episode, how somebody found their lost cat.
Right. That's the best thing that happens.
It crushes me, man. Like I avoid the news.
Yeah, me too.
You know? But
I want to read my own news. I want to choose what I actually consume.
Thank you. Yes. But you know, grandma, grandpa, bless their hearts, they always have the news on 24/7 because they're old school. And I'm like, guys,
I actually in university religiously watched I would make supper and I would sit down and I'd watch the 6 o'clock news, because like that's how I grew up. And then one day I just found myself being uber negative about everything. I'm like, you know what, I think it's the news. Somebody told me that. And so I literally just cut it out cold turkey, stop doing it. Well, yeah. And they're like, well, also, I mean, the advent of technology kind of came around. You're able to find and be able to get those things. For sure. How do you remain positive in a negative world?
By understanding positivity doesn't exist without negativity.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, I kind of look at things like, it's a mindset thing is what it is. It's 100% mindset. And the way that I process anything negative is that without this moment, I wouldn't have any gratitude or appreciation. Like I need this. And when you start to understand that lesson, it takes you places. Because what I've learned is like being uncomfortable, you know, challenging yourself to such a degree where you question, like, am I able to do this? Like my mind now believes that, the game just began. Like the minute that's the first game. I just need to trigger that thought, that feeling, that discomfort, that voice of discouragement. And the minute I start hearing it, I've like reprogrammed my mind to say, I'm in the game. I officially just, like I went from the bench in the hockey game, right, out into the ice. Now I'm playing. And then it becomes overcoming adversity, right? Like tune out those voices, you know, like, hey, how many people are going to listen to these thoughts? Well, I don't want to be everybody else, man. I want to be the best there ever was. You know, I want to be on stages across the world helping thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. And there's no way I'm ever going to obtain that by listening to this negative thought or allowing negativity to suppress me. So it's become, a tool for lack of better terms. Like it's something that I look at and perceive, and now I use it as an advantage. But I have to be clear, like I still have hard days. Like I'm human. I've got emotions. We all do. It's just what you do in those moments and how well you get to know yourself to be able to put yourself, in the environments to overcome.
But when it comes to your team, and you've got someone who's got a little bit more of a negative mindset, how do you condition them to also see the positive side?
Oh, by complimenting the crap out of them. I mean, that's why I say I'm always trying to catch what they're doing right. Because I'm reprogramming them to believe in themselves, to be confident in what they do. And I think what I just did to you is the same thing I will always do to them. Right. And here's the thing, is like I openly talk to them like it's a tactic. Like they know they're gonna sit in my office, and they know if it's gonna be difficult or challenging, for lack of better terms. Every time, they also, I'm pretty sure, know they're gonna walk out with a fire lit, because the conversation is always going to come back to, hey, it's not what happens to you, it's how you respond to it.
Right.
I'm like, you have an opportunity right here. Like this conversation doesn't have to be negative, doesn't have to be difficult. It could just be, hey, I'm not attacking your character, right? And I want to see you win. Do you know that? And they're like, yeah, Mike, I believe in that. I'm like, okay, so let's get the hard stuff out of the way. We have it. I'm like, now right now in this moment, how you choose this very next step, you're either going to grow or you're going to continue to have a negative experience. Yep. What would you rather have? And it's always question-based, right? Because it's essential. You can't talk at them, you have to talk with them. Mm-hmm. And it just works, man. They seem to react well to it, so I'm gonna keep doing it until it doesn't.
Right. Well, it comes back to something that you talked about a lot with the team too, is like, we don't fire people, right? People fire themselves. Yes. And when you have a conversation like that, that allows them to make a decision. How are they gonna choose to show up moving forward?
That's right.
Yeah. I literally just gave a message to the team on the other day about winners find a way.
That's right. And I think it's on us as leaders to define what winning is. Yes. Chris McChesney spoke here maybe 2 years ago at this event, and what he taught me always stuck with me. Our job is to define the scoreboard. Like as long as the team in each of their individual roles understands what winning and losing is, we've done our part. Right. And it needs to be somewhat vague. I get it, like you get bigger and you need to create parameters and things, but I think when it's vague to a degree, it allows us to tap into what makes us unique and beautiful. Like your best sales guy isn't gonna sell the same way as your second best sales guy, sales gal. And you have to be able to let them lean into their unique strengths and capabilities to do what they need to do, which is sell. Right. But the game is clear, right? Like I just need to understand what the scoreboard looks like, define what winning and losing is. Because if you have a team member that looks in the mirror and they don't understand if they are winning or losing and they're relying upon you to determine that, we have a shortcoming somewhere.
Right. You talked about being the best that ever did it. Yeah. Getting up on stage, being in front of people, accomplishing amazing things. In order to do that, there's a lot of sacrifices that need to happen. And it's difficult to be the best that ever did it, and to be the best dad, and to be the best husband, wife, spouse, child, etc. Yeah. How do you go about assessing whether a goal is worth the squeeze?
I was afraid you were going to ask me this, and I think some viewers might not like the answer. It might rub them the wrong way. But like, if you have to question it, you don't want it bad enough. Mm-hmm. It's just what it is. I think Peter Drucker says this in a book called The Effective Executive. Yep. Sometimes we spend our entire lives never truly understanding who we are. When you've done the work and you truly realize and understand who you are, you will never ask that question. You will be so obsessed and so lit upon the thing that you want that there is no if or how, there just is, right. And I think that the problem, and I should preface this with, I don't have kids. Like my wife and I, because we love what we do so much, like we constantly go back and forth about like, hey, are we gonna do this? Are we not? Like I'm 37, she's 32, like the conversations are there. And the amount of love that I can imagine you guys have for your kids, I'm afraid. I'm like, man, that might just derail. But if I really am truly obsessed and I wanna be the best, that won't get in the way. Nope. Nothing gets in the way. But I'll tell you, man, it's all I think about. Like every day, my mind's just going like, how do I help this person, grow this person? How do I get better? Like it's all about because I just feel like tomorrow might be the last day. So I need to keep.
Well, you know that value, and that's the thing, right? It's fulfilling, and I can tell you, you can still accomplish your mission and have kids at the same time. Yeah. It just changes your perspective.
Well, listen, man, look at every one of your idols,
right?
I mean, the majority of the world, they got kids.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, the fact that I don't have them, it's just helping me catch up to some people.
But so there's also the reality of like when you talk about kids, I know our neighbors behind us, and they actually moved into the house and they're gonna have kids, do everything, and then they had a moment and they're like, I actually don't think kids are right for us. And it's like, all right, that's completely fair. It's your life. Who are we to judge? And so sometimes there's a stereotype about, oh, Mike's not gonna have kids. The heck, or the old grannies in the store saying, when are you guys gonna have kids? You've been married for how long? Time's ticking, right? And like, no, it's your life. You do what you want. Do what lights you up. Do what fulfills you.
Yeah, exactly, man. I mean, listen, to each their own. But I will tell you this much: like my little sister as my nephew, I am loving every minute of that. I love having zero responsibility and accountability. But
all the cuddles without the struggles. Yeah.
I'm going to teach them all the things, and it's your problem, little sis.
Yeah, send them with load them up with sugar, and then drop them back off at home. See
ya! Man. Yeah, I don't get to see them often.
Right.
So you know what I do? I'm like, we're going all out, little buddy. You're going to have the best time.
Yeah, I think there's a level of success that you can obtain and still be a great parent. And yet, when you look at like Eddie Hall, I'm not sure if you know who he is or not, World's Strongest Man from like 2018, I think it was when he won it, right? He said that if he would have continued, if he didn't win that year and he had to go for it again, that he would end up either dead, divorced, and his kids would leave him. Because of the work that was required in order to do that, and the pharmaceuticals that he was taking and the drugs that he was taking in order to maintain that strength.
Right.
So I think it's important that you know that, look, it's going to take sacrifice on your life.
That's right.
And you may not be able to do all the things that you thought you wanted to do if you want to go after that.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I talk about this in like some of the classes that I teach, and that's like your best business partner you ever invest in. Like it's not anybody you work with, man. It's your wife.
Yeah.
It really is. Like I think that might be one of the biggest hacks that I have. I mean, she literally is the sweetest person. Like every day I'm like, I gotta be better. I have to be better. She's like, even in the moments where she should be mean, she's not. So I carry this overwhelming guilt 24/7 of like, I gotta be a better everything, And that helps. Like, and she works at Ryno too, so that was, that's always interesting as well.
I like how you guarded your word there.
Yeah, because we have to like, you have to draw this line, and I think I'm going to credit Chris and Anna Yano to a lot of that because, like you grow in this company. I've spent a third of my life there, so I see it, I observe it, and they complement each other's strengths and weaknesses, and Jacqueline and I are very much the same way. She's a very ops-minded, like she runs all of our internal products, SEO, PPC, she oversees it all, So for her to be in the strategy side, she's very ops-minded, I'm very visionary. We have the same kind of opposition, but when you draw that line, and Gary Vee, taught us this. We had a partnership with him in 2019, and it was the 1A, 1B concept. It's just, you have your org chart, and you can have your differences, but in this instance, this person's the 1A, in that instance, this person's the 1A, and they make the final decision, and you just have to come to terms whether you like it or not.
Right.
And then you can fast forward 2 years and you can play the I told you so card. I mean, if I had a nickel for how many times Cristiano threw it in my face that we voted against the To The Point podcast, I wouldn't need this job. So like, but that's the beauty of it. Like he's the 1A in that instance. He went through with it, and it's been great for us. I'm sure you guys see the same results because your podcast is well known. It's a great podcast. I'm thrilled to be here.
Appreciate you coming on. So
no, but that's really important and a great distinction because I mean we've had many different couples that have been on the show that run companies together, and sometimes it wasn't the couple, but the spouse still works in the business, and you can see them thriving in a lot of cases, and it doesn't mean it's easy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hard conversations that happen there, and being able to create that separation of work and family life is also really important.
Carrie Kelsch from A+ Garage was on a podcast of ours, like maybe two 3 weeks ago. It just aired, and she said something that I'll never forget, because they were having the conversation of like, hey, do you hire significant others, family? Like, what are your thoughts about that? And she goes, well, what's your family culture like? And I had this, I'm like, this is so good. I mean, if I can sit around the dinner table and have a healthy dispute with my wife, you know, or my brother or my sister, I can probably have that at work and it would work. Yeah. But if we're screaming at each other, throwing forks and knives, like, you probably shouldn't let that person in. It's just a recipe for disaster. And ever since she said that, I was like, yeah, I'm taking that one with me. Yeah, that's brilliant. I'm going to reteach that lesson.
Yep. Well, it's a brilliant lesson. You think about that, because like your life, your home life affects your work life, and your work life affects your home life, because and especially when they're intertwined as much as your guys's are. And so it's also knowing the distinguishing thing of, we need to turn off work.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You have to have a line and a strategy. And to be honest, right now, I'm just praying that I said her name right. I'm like, oh man, after this is over, I'm going to go back and look that one up. I apologize if I said it wrong, but you know who you are, and I'm wiser because of you.
That's funny. So,
well, I was just thinking of Tom we had on the show last year at this event, and I'm not even going to say his last name because I always butcher it.
President Tom?
Yeah.
I thought it's Peregrino.
Oh, fuck.
This
is why I didn't say it, right?
You don't have to say it. I just butchered it.
I just need to see the spelling of it is what I need to see.
Go for it.
So
I'll look that up. But when we had him on the show, he talked about one of his hiring practices when he ran his business was to go out for dinner with the technician, et cetera, and their spouse, because he wanted to make sure that there was support there at home and that home life was still healthy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would ask some of the employees, I would ask their spouses at our Christmas party. How are things going? And I'd be looking for that. I'm like, if the wife, the husband's happy, like that's usually a good indicator, you know, because they're coming home with it.
Right. It is spelled Peregrino, and so that's what I would go with it too. But I know I don't think it's actually quite Peregrino. I think it might be something else. So next time I see him, I'll make sure. How do you like phonetically say your last name?
They'll say it on stage.
I'm for sure going to ask him, because I might be 0 for 2 on throwing people out. At least I'm trying to give everybody the love, you know?
We're not even drinking. It's well, it is noon though. But hey, Mike, I know you got to go fold, a whole bunch of shirts. So thank you for taking some time out of the event setup here for Service World Expo. But before we wrap up, we do have one last question.
Bring it on, man.
What is one question that you wished people would ask you more, but don't?
What's the secret to happiness?
So what is the secret to happiness?
It's not always about you.
Make somebody else smile.
That's it, man. Start living your life every day for everyone else. Changed everything. Changed everything, man.
I like that answer.
Yeah, you got it, man. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to put it out there.
I know it. Thank you.
I had such a blast.
Awesome.
This was great. Seriously, thank you guys.
No worries. Thank you. So, and until next time.
Cheers.
Well, that's a wrap on another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, 2 quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of this show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.